What should one do with a cheating partner? Many will say that divorce is the way out, and it is, but for many, it is a serious financial loss. Cheating people do not think about the consequences and assume their husband or wife will not do anything to them. But you cannot be 100% sure of something. Otherwise, it will greatly ruin. Some people will wait, anticipating the right moment to strike back, which will be 1,000 times more painful. Therefore, before cheating, it is better to think 100 times, and it is better not to cheat at all. Approaching the counter, I inquired with the clerk about any messages for me. He checked the box for room 305 and handed me a slip of paper. As I read it, 2 men who had been seated in the lobby when I entered got up and approached me. The note instructed me to call Detective Howard Miller and provided a phone number. The 2 men approached, one on each side of me, and the man to my right asked if I was Frank Thomas. Yes, I replied. He displayed a badge and identified himself as Detective Larson, with the other man introduced as Detective Phillips. Yes, how can I assist you? I asked. Is that note from Detective Miller of the Branson Police Department? It's from a Detective Miller, but I'm not sure of his affiliation, I replied. He called and left that message shortly after 9 this morning. When you didn't return his call, he contacted us to locate you. Can you tell us where you've been today? Larson inquired. Why do you need to know? What's going on? I asked. Could you please indulge us for a moment and answer the question? Phillips requested. Between 8 and approximately 9 in the morning, I had breakfast at the hotel restaurant with a few acquaintances. From 9 until noon, I participated in a seminar held in one of the hotel's meeting rooms. Lunch took place from noon to 1 with some individuals I met during the seminar, followed by attending the afternoon session from 1 to 4:30. The cocktail hour following the seminar ran from 4:30 to 6. Dinner was from 6 to around 7:15 in the hotel restaurant, and then drinks were enjoyed in the Boom Boom Room until 5 minutes ago. Now it's my turn. What's the purpose of all this? I inquired. I suggest you discuss that with Detective Miller. Lastly, where were you last night between midnight and 4? Larson asked. I was in bed, asleep, I replied. Is there anyone who can verify that? Phillips questioned. Why would I need someone to confirm that I was asleep? I retorted. Once again, you'll have to ask Detective Miller for that information. I glanced between Larson and Phillips before making my way to the house phone. I instructed the operator to charge the call to my room and dialed the number provided on Detective Miller's note. It seemed to be a cell phone since, despite the late hour, it was picked up on the 3rd ring. Hello? Is this Detective Miller? I asked. Yes, came the reply. This is Frank Thomas. I received a message to contact you, I stated. Ah, Mr. Thomas, you've been quite elusive. I've been tied up in meetings all day, just received your message. Right now I have 2 local policemen with me, bombarding me with questions without disclosing the reason. I regret to inform you, Mr. Thomas, but your wife has passed away. How? What happened? I asked, shocked. She was fine when I spoke to her last night. At what time was that? Detective Miller inquired. Around 6, I replied. Where did you call her from? From my hotel room. Between midnight and 4 this morning, she was murdered. Detective Miller informed me. Murdered? I exclaimed. Yes, sir. It seems someone intruded into your home and took her life. Oh my goodness, oh no, I murmured. Do you have any clues about who might be responsible? Was it a failed robbery? Did they take anything like TVs, DVRs, or valuables? I questioned frantically. I can't discuss it over the phone, Mr. Thomas. Let's go over everything when you're back home. I'll attempt to catch the earliest flight tomorrow. May I join the conversation with the officers? I asked. Absolutely. Detective Miller replied. I passed the phone to Larson. I'll be upstairs packing. I need to contact the airlines and leave messages for the seminar organizers. During the flight back, my mind wandered to thoughts of Melissa. We had crossed paths at a cocktail party, and I found myself completely smitten with her. With her fiery red hair and a smile that could light up a room, she possessed a captivating charm coupled with a figure that seemed sculpted for temptation. Despite her accompanying someone at the party, given the presence of several individuals vital for potential business connections, I maintained a composed demeanor. It wasn't until I managed to catch her alone that I discreetly passed her a note with my contact details and a simple message, "Call me." To my surprise, she dialed my number the very next day, questioning my presumption that she would reach out. "Nothing ventured, nothing gained," I replied. And there's a British military motto that seems apt for this scenario: "Who dares wins." How could I resist someone so boldly confident? She mused. You shouldn't, really. After exchanging addresses, I fetched her for dinner at 6 that evening. Melissa encompassed the complete package: beauty, humor, charisma, and intelligence. By our third date, she informed me that we'd be dining in, with me just needing to bring the wine. As the evening drew to a close and the wine bottle emptied, she took my hand and uttered, "I trust you hadn't planned on an early departure. We must explore whether we have a future together." She took me to her bedroom and started an unforgettable night. This woman was insatiable, but I must have met her expectations because the next morning, after another meeting, she noticed, "You're fine with me." 9 months later, we exchanged vows. My thoughts were interrupted by an announcement about the preparations for boarding. Please make sure that the backs of your chairs and pull-out tables are in an upright position. I had phoned Miller in advance to inform him of my flight details and its arrival time. Both he and his partner, Detective Paulson, were present to greet me upon disembarking from the plane. Following the introductions, he suggested that I join them at the station. I countered that I would retrieve my car from the parking garage and either follow them or meet them at the station. However, he insisted that they would prefer me to accompany them. And I, on the other hand, would prefer not to. My car is here, I am here, and it seems unnecessary for me to travel downtown with you only to return here to retrieve my car. Unless I am being arrested, I intend to retrieve my car. One might question why you're not exhibiting more cooperation, Mr. Thomas. No one in my situation would hesitate. How about we cut to the chase with the dance? My wife's been killed, and we both know I'm a suspect, despite being nearly 400 miles away with solid evidence to prove it. We're aware you've got officers from last night checking every detail I provided before reaching out to you. You didn't disclose anything about my wife's fate during our last conversation, only hinting we'd discuss it upon my return. Now you want me to abandon my car here? That implies you believe I won't be needing it anymore, suggesting you've already pinned me as your prime suspect, expecting to see me in cuffs before the day's end so my car can just sit here. And yet you expect me to cooperate. Cooperation requires reciprocity, detective. He glanced at me, then nodded. I see we're starting off on the wrong foot here. He scanned the area and gestured towards one of the numerous food outlets scattered around the terminal. Let's grab a table, have some coffee, and I'll fill you in. While enjoying coffee together, Miller mentioned, yesterday morning around 9:10, a friend of your wife, Mary Osborne, came by to take her for a planned shopping trip. When she received no response after ringing the bell, she tried the door and found it open. Upon entering, she called out for your wife, but received no answer. Upon checking, she noticed your wife's car still in the garage. Assuming your wife might have overslept, she went upstairs and discovered your wife deceased on the bedroom floor. She immediately dialed 911, but the coroner later determined your wife had been dead for at least 4 hours before her friend found her. You mentioned she was murdered. She was shot twice. Why do I sense there's more you're not telling me? I'm not the one making this decision. There's a protocol to follow in situations like this. A formal interrogation must take place at the station, and it will be recorded. I've already provided more information than I should have. Go get your car and meet us at the station. Do I need to have a lawyer present? That's your decision. You have the right to one. As a police officer, I must admit I'd prefer if you didn't exercise that right. Lawyers tend to interrupt frequently, disrupting the interrogation process. A smooth interrogation flow can reveal information to the interrogator, so I'll be interrogated. Indeed, as you mentioned yourself until you're cleared, you're a person of interest in the investigation into your wife's death. We finished our coffee, and then I caught the shuttle to retrieve my car. Upon arrival at the station, I was directed into a room where Miller and Paulson joined me. They informed me that our conversation was being recorded and inquired whether I wanted legal representation present. I declined. They proceeded to question me about my whereabouts on the night in question, to which I provided the same account I had given to the detectives at the hotel. Then Paulson posed a query. "Do you possess a handgun?" "I have several." "Really? Any .22 calibers?" "No, mostly Colt 45s and Glock 40s. Mostly. I might have a couple of 3 out of 7 Magnums, but I'm uncertain." "How can you not be certain about owning them?" "I don't technically own them. They belong to my company." "Your company, Paladin Security Services. You're the owner of Paladin?" "Yes, I am." He contemplated this for a moment and then inquired, "Are you familiar with a man named Robert Turner?" "I haven't met him personally, but I'm aware of who he is. What information do you have about him?" "Well, I'm not completely up to date, but as of last week, he was involved with my wife." "You're aware of that?" "Yes. I believe she started seeing him around the beginning of April." "Maybe you should consider bringing in a lawyer, Mr. Thomas." "Why's that?" "Because you've just confessed to knowing that Robert Turner was involved with your wife, and Robert Turner was discovered dead in your wife's bedroom. And you're assuming that I, as the betrayed husband, killed them both in a fit of jealousy. That's preposterous. If I were to act out of rage, it would have been against Ronald Porter. He was the first person she cheated on me with. Since then, there have been at least 4 others, and I've never laid a finger on any of them." "You're certain about all this?" I observed the expression on Paulson's face, which seemed to convey, "You sorry excuse for a weakling." "What kind of man are you?" Internally, I muttered, "Screw you," and proceeded to respond to Miller. "Have you ever experienced a divorce yourself or known someone who has?" "I haven't personally, but I'm acquainted with several who have." "How did the man fare in the process?" "Unfortunately, not too well. That's my dilemma. I've achieved success in my life. My home is valued at just over $3 million, and the business I've tirelessly built is worth around $10 to $12 million. However, being in a no-fault state means even if I caught Melissa cheating, she'd still be entitled to half of everything. I'd have to liquidate the house and business, give Melissa half, bear the brunt of court costs and lawyer fees, and likely end up paying her alimony for a year. Nevertheless, it does provide motive, perhaps, but it wouldn't be logical for me to murder her and risk imprisonment when I could be free of her in another 9 months without any cost." "How so?" "She would have inherited a trust fund when she turned 30, which is just 9 months away. It's around $7 million or so. At that point, our assets would have been equal, and I could have divorced her and kept everything I have. Actually, her getting killed now deprives me of a potential fortune. If she had waited until she was 30 to meet her end, I would have inherited it. But now, all that money will go to various charities. It would have been beneficial for me to endure living with her for 9 more months. By the way, you never mentioned how did she die." 2 bullets to the forehead. Turner met the same fate. 2 shots to the forehead. A double tap to the head. Does that ring any bells? Should it? Have you looked into Turner's wife? She has a solid alibi. No surprises there, she would. Have you investigated her family? Her family? Her father is Vito Genovese, and if even half of what you hear about him is true, he wouldn't have trouble finding someone to solve a problem for his beloved daughter. Family honor and all that nonsense. Isn't a double tap to the head a signature of a mob-style hit? Miller and Paulson exchanged glances, their minds clearly at work. Miller turned to me and inquired, "Can you substantiate your claims?" "I have the private investigator's reports on her affairs, and I can provide you with her attorney's name. I assume you can obtain information about the trust fund from him. The details regarding Genovese are in the PI report I obtained on Turner. Was your wife aware of your knowledge of her actions?" "I doubt it. I played the ignorant husband role around her. She was skilled in bed and never denied me. I wasn't willing to forego sex until she turned 30, nor was I willing to cheat and risk her catching me and filing for divorce. I believe we have no further questions for now, but please keep us informed of your whereabouts in case we need to speak with you again. As Melissa's casket was being lowered into the ground, I glanced at the gathered mourners and pondered whether any of them truly understood what had transpired. Upon completing college at the age of 20, I wasn't ready to settle into a conventional life. Instead, I craved adventure, wanted to take risks, and relished life's experiences before succumbing to the mundane routine of a typical 9-to-5 existence, complete with a stereotypical suburban family. With Clinton deploying troops to Bosnia, I saw an opportunity for excitement and enlisted in the Army. However, my military career was short-lived. During my third week of basic training, a few troublemakers in my platoon decided to teach the college boy a lesson with a blanket party. Caught off guard while in the shower, I found myself defenseless as they began assaulting me with socks filled with bars of soap. I had never received any formal training in martial arts, and I'm not entirely sure why I acted the way I did. Perhaps it was something I had seen in a movie and unconsciously recalled. I executed a swift leg sweep, not a kick, moving forcefully from right to left, causing one of the individuals to lose their footing and fall to the shower floor where their head made contact, resulting in bleeding. One of the others exclaimed, "Christ, he's bleeding." This prompted one of them to release their hold on me to check on the fallen person, which allowed me to break free further with another leg sweep, causing another person to fall. Suddenly, there were fewer individuals restraining me, and I managed to pull away from those who remained and escaped from under the blanket. 2 men were now on the floor, while a third was bent over them. The 2 standing men looked at me with expressions that seemed to convey, "Whoa, this isn't how it's supposed to go down." I grabbed one of them by the arm and forcefully pushed his face against the shower wall, causing him to fall. The other man began to retreat as the one on his knees tried to get up. Deciding that it was better not to let him move, I struck a decisive blow. Heading towards the remaining attacker, he turned and ran away. The first person I disabled didn't move, but the second one was moving, so I had to immobilize him. At that moment, the platoon sergeants arrived. Sergeant Marks noticed a blanket and socks filled with soap and immediately assessed the situation. I tried to get around him, but he intercepted me, doubting my intentions. "Where are you going?" "There's another one of these guys and I'm going after him." "No, it's not like that," I insisted, but Sergeant Marks sternly intervened. "Stop it, Thomas. Whatever you did to deal with them earlier, it won't work with me. Now just stand over there while I sort this out." In the end, the situation was resolved, and I found myself locked in a mail pen. On my second day there, I was summoned into a room where a captain sat behind a table. While being escorted from my cell to the room, the MP informed me of the protocol. I was to walk in, halt 6 feet from the table, salute, and declare, "Private Thomas reporting as ordered," maintaining the salute until it was returned. As I stood before the table, I said, "I'm Private Thomas. Aren't you forgetting something?" "I don't believe so." "It should be, 'I don't think so, sir.' And what you omitted was the salute." "I didn't overlook the salute or the sir. Both signify respect, and I don't have any respect for individuals who treat me in the manner I've been treated simply because I defended myself. You sent 4 men to the infirmary. Doesn't that concern you? The only thing concerning me about it is that Sergeant Marks prevented me from making it 5. What will it take for you to start addressing me as sir? You earning my respect through your actions. My enduring connection with Lieutenant Intercaptain Major Colonel Jones Smith, or whatever his true name and rank may have been, commenced at that point. Evidently, my uncompromising attitude caught the attention of a certain faction within the United States Army. I was extracted from basic training and dispatched to an undisclosed location, receiving instruction that few other recruits received. I'd acquired proficiency in firearms, knives, melee combat, and unconventional skills such as lockpicking, car hotwiring, forging identities, flying small aircraft, navigating small watercraft, and a plethora of other abilities before being set free. The oath I swore upon enlisting was to defend against all enemies, foreign and domestic, though the foreign aspect never factored in. It's surprising how many domestic adversaries America harbors, and our method of dealing with them was through elimination. Accidental drownings, falls downstairs resulting in broken necks, and staged auto accidents were just a few means by which these issues were resolved. Engaging in such work tends to breed paranoia. You begin to question what might occur if an operation went awry. What if you were needed as a scapegoat? What if circumstances arose where the optimal solution was for you to vanish or for your body to be discovered with incriminating evidence? Given the nature of your tasks, you couldn't shake the feeling that if your removal became necessary, they wouldn't hesitate. During my 6 years with the group, I strategically placed money, weapons, and identification in multiple hiding spots. In case of emergencies, I had several escape routes planned. Fortunately, I never had to utilize them, but I made sure they were available. Upon leaving the group, I established myself in the security industry. In essence, my company provided security specialists, which is a euphemism for bodyguards and armed guards for various corporations. After being out for a year, I encountered Melissa at a cocktail party, began dating her, and eventually proposed. Our marriage seemed solid to me. However, just over a year into our marriage, I woke up one morning beside Melissa and had a gut feeling she was being unfaithful, despite no prior evidence. Without any concrete proof, I decided to hire a private investigator. Within a week, I obtained evidence of Melissa's affair with a man named Ronald Porter. Armed with this information, I had to contemplate my next move. In truth, I already knew what needed to be done. The challenge lay in executing it without repercussions. At home, Melissa was affectionate and loving, never refusing me in the bedroom. Surprisingly, she often took the lead. While I couldn't fathom why she was unfaithful, I also didn't feel compelled to delve into the reasons. My focus was on sustaining the marriage while quietly plotting my own future. Over the following years, I intermittently monitored Melissa's activities and discovered she had engaged with at least 4 additional partners. There might have been more encounters, but they likely occurred during periods when I wasn't keeping tabs on her. I stored this information away, biding my time for the opportune moment. During my time in the Army, I acquired the skill of flying out of necessity for operational purposes, rather than out of any personal passion or interest. Flying was simply a task I occasionally had to perform as part of my duties. Upon leaving the military, I never anticipated flying again unless as a passenger on a commercial airline. However, utilizing one of the false identities I had obtained during my service and some of the money I had saved, I purchased a Cessna 172, a Honda Accord, and a Harley motorcycle. I also obtained a silenced .22 caliber target pistol from one of my weapons caches, waiting for the right opportunity to arise. That opportunity presented itself when I received the private investigator's report on Robert Turner and his connection to his father-in-law. Despite not having a genuine interest, I frequently attended seminars and trade shows. When invited to a seminar on industrial security, I accepted. After Monday's session, I lingered for one drink before returning to my hotel room. I informed Melissa of my whereabouts, expressing my love and longing for her, which she reciprocated. I had deliberately chosen a hotel without security cameras in the halls and stairwells for added privacy and security. After returning to my room, I changed my attire to jeans, tennis shoes, a sweet shirt, and a windbreaker. I adorned a ball cap, donned a fake mustache, and wore a pair of glasses with clear lenses. Exiting through a side door, I descended a stairwell and walked 6 blocks, then turned 2 blocks over to hail a cab. Upon reaching a bar, I discreetly made my way 2 blocks further to a motel, where I had previously parked the Honda Accord. From there, I drove to the airfield where my Cessna was stationed, filed a flight plan for a fence, and took off. Once airborne, I canceled my flight plan and headed back home. The flight lasted just over 3 hours, and upon landing and securing the Cessna, I retrieved a pre-positioned Harley and rode it to my house. Parking 2 blocks away, I quietly entered my home, proceeded to my office, and retrieved a bag from the closet. Inside, I found latex gloves and booties, which I put on. I then ensured that the taser in the bag was fully charged. Everything was ready, so I silently climbed the stairs towards the bedrooms and found an unexpected surprise. I'd expected to find only Melissa there, but the sounds coming from the room indicated that she was not alone. As I stealthily walked down the corridor, I heard my wife admiring me. I entered the bedroom and immediately identified the man my wife was having fun with. It was her current lover, which was an additional insult. Melissa noticed me, her face turned pale, and she screamed. Turner saw me and pulled away from Melissa just as I discharged the taser at him. He collapsed on the floor writhing, and I quickly went to the bed, grabbed Melissa, and silenced her by inserting a gag. I handcuffed her to the bed. Then, with a deft swing of my elbow, I stunned my lover. Going downstairs, I took a sharp knife from the kitchen table and went upstairs. Turning to Melissa with a smile, I noticed, "How nice of you to entertain. I expected to find you alone. I was wrong." I turned Turner over on his back and waited for him to regain consciousness while I talked to Melissa. "Have you been enjoying yourself, dear? Is Turner preferable to Porter? Why did you leave Porter? Was it because Hathaway was superior?" But then, if it was always about seeking something better, it would imply that Prince was better than Hathaway and Davidson was better than Prince. Well, that doesn't reflect positively on me, does it? As I spoke, Melissa was crying and struggling to break free from the bed, and Turner began to stir. I glanced at Melissa and remarked, "If Turner surpasses the others by so much, it must be because you truly enjoy his company. Who am I to deny you what you desire?" I bent down and grabbed Turner, meeting his gaze, and continued, "A romantic relationship with another man's wife is inappropriate, especially in his house and in his bed." With these words, I made a slight movement and took the dignity of her lover in my hands. "Here you go, Melissa. They're yours forever." Holding a pistol with a silencer in my hand, I aimed at the coach's forehead and said, "I hope she was worth it, you bastard." And then everyone knows perfectly well what happened. Turning to Melissa, I asked, "I guess I'll never understand why you betrayed me all these years by staying on the side of these jerks. But I won't give you a chance to explain yourself. I just hope that the moments of joy you experienced were worth the consequences you will face. I'm really sorry, Melissa. I truly loved you." She started wriggling like a real snake, and it was hard for me to concentrate, and at some point I wanted to listen to her version. I understood that whatever her version was, I had already made a decision, and I do not plan to retreat. I freed her so she could speak calmly. She was crying and stuttering. It sounded so pathetic and false, but I decided to continue listening to her. "Forgive me. This is my big mistake. I'm not interested in your apology. The only thing I want to hear is why." I asked, making it clear that I wasn't going to listen to her apologies. She was silent and obviously choosing her words because she understood that I was serious. "It happened by accident." "Stop lying," I interrupted her. "How many lovers have you had? You have one shot at the right answer. If it doesn't satisfy me, then I'll do what I plan to do. And don't try to lie to me. I know you've had a lot of them." She looked at me with frightened eyes and was clearly thinking about something. I even began to be scared by how long she was preparing for an answer. But after a couple of seconds, she whispered, 12. "Damn," I thought to myself. How could I be so blind? "And when did your first lover appear?" 4 months after our wedding," she replied. And this answer put me in a stupor. 4 months after the wedding? The horror! I was shocked. I realized that listening to her explanations was a bad idea and decided to finish what I started. I aimed at her forehead and her eyes widened. I repeated the same thing with her as with her lover. I collected the spent casings and everything that could indicate my involvement in this. I put everything in the bar and left the house. 4 hours later, I returned to my hotel room, where the clock on the bedside table showed 5:15. I managed to sleep for 2 hours before waking up, having breakfast, and then going to the seminar. As I stood there observing the casket being lowered into the ground, I mentally reviewed everything. I was confident that I had taken care of all the details. My military service record would confirm that I spent my time in the quartermasters, handling supply depots. Nothing suspicious to raise eyebrows. The absence of an alibi would ironically serve as one. If I were guilty, I would have made sure to cover my tracks. My plan was to wait a couple of weeks, then arrange a business trip. During that trip, I'd utilize my fake ID to sell off the Cessna and the Accord. As for the Harley, I'd left it in a location where it was likely to be stolen, ensuring it couldn't be traced back to me. As I took a step forward to drop a single red rose onto Melissa's casket, I reminded myself that all I needed to do now was to maintain a facade of normalcy and wait to see how things unfolded. Thanks to everyone who took the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share your thoughts on the events in the comments below. Take care.